Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here today. Welcome to the first media day in the new era of the CCHA. My name is Dominic Henning. I'm the Director of Strategic Communications and Brand Advancement. And I'd like to welcome all of our media members today and thank you for your continued support of college hockey. This virtual media day will be recorded. It will be edited and posted later on today at cchatv.com, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. In just a bit, we'll hear from the CCHA Commissioner, Don Lucia, as well as the CCHA Director of Officiating, Kevin Langseth, followed by all 8 head coaches in the CCHA. We wanted to take a few minutes to showcase some of the upgrades coming to the CCHA this season, and also to thank the 8 university presidents and athletic directors for their support and investment into their programs this offseason. Before we get to the upgrades, yesterday 4 preseason announcements were made on CCHA.com. And with those announcements, of course, we want to congratulate the Minnesota State Mavericks for their position at number 1 in the poll, followed by Bemidji State, Michigan Tech, Northern Michigan, Bowling Green State, Lake Superior State, Ferris State, and St. Thomas. Rookie of the Year, Austin Swankler this season, coming to the Bowling Green State Falcons. Our Player of the Year, Nathan Smith, as well. Our preseason all-conference team, Akito Hiroshi, Colin Sawyer. On defense, Julian Napravnik, Joseph Nardi, and Nathan Smith for forwards, and Dryden McKay as the goaltender. New league upgrades coming in, and this is where we want to thank our presidents and ADs for their investments as a league. Some of the areas that we were looking at coming into this season was our television and streaming partner, and upgrades, league standards for our productions moving forward for our fans, as well as helping with development for student athletes moving forward. Our digital brand, of course, as well at ccha.com and our social media platforms. And then our physical brand, our facilities, our student athlete experience, and our game day fan experience, which you'll see momentarily. New this season, the CCHA will be miking up their referees. Both referees will have lavalier mics on their shirt that will be echoed throughout the arena, as well as being fed to television broadcasters, home and away radio broadcasters as well. So 4 different areas will patch into the referee on ice mics. Our website, we couldn't be more thrilled with our partner with Sidearm Sports on designing the new CCHA.com. It's going to be very user friendly. If you haven't been to it already, very mobile friendly as well, featuring just great ways to figure out where games are on television, streaming, if they're on radio, what channel, easy access to get to those games, and of course live stats as well. Also new, CCHA TV is a brand that is ever growing right now with the CCHA, and the CCHA has secured rights to CCHATV.com, CCHA.tv as well for future initiatives. But new this year, the CCHA will be producing highlights at the league office and a war room for each of the teams as well. That should be up the night of games and hopefully, impact exposure for our student athletes as well as our fan bases, and keeping them more engaged and more involved with our programs moving forward. Mic flags have been purchased by the league office and sent to all 8 teams as well, again with the CCHA TV brand. And then our partner, Flow Sports, also known as Flow Hockey. We've been thrilled with our partnership with them on a 3-year deal. And just working with our teams to increase our resolution, our frames per second, our motion graphics, and league standards of that nature. With Flow Sports, you can download the Flow Sports app to smart TVs like Roku or Apple TV, watch games live on your home televisions. And of course, it's on the go as well. Laptops, iPads, iPhones, whatever you have a screen with, you can have access to Flow Sports moving forward. Some of the areas that we focused on from a branding standpoint with the CCHA, our static graphics package. Yes, it's the Maple Leafs right now for just an example, but really trying to modernize and look towards the future for the look towards just a modern, more sleek design, I guess, for the CCHA. We're thrilled with our online store partner as well. ShopCCHA.com should be debuting within the next week for fans to get team and league co-branded merchandise. Of course, we talked about our website that is from a desktop and a mobile brand as well, or mobile friendly as well. Some sweet motion graphics that we have that are coming soon as well in our highlight packages and on CCHA.com. Just 3D motion graphics that, again, will hopefully, bring the CCHA into the modern era. These will be the teaser graphics that fans will see and yourself before highlight packages that are on CCHA.com after games. Again, the 3D look, and then just one more. So all of that will be debuted within the next week. Our TV productions, CCHA TV, again, continues to pop up, and this brand continues to evolve. Opening intros as well to really make our television presence professional. A first look at the new score bug for the CCHA as well. All 8 teams will have this in their arena. The shots on goal, the score clock will be connected to the score clock controller. We'll have accurate to the 10th of a second time now with power play and penalties as well moving forward, and just a few more looks at some of the TV graphics coming to Flow Sports and CCHA TV in the future. On top of that, available cameras, we're trying to standardize our cameras. We're adding blue line cameras this season. And then co-branded backdrops, ice mics being fed to broadcasters to bring fans closer to the games. Our goal nets are, going to be branded this year and look as professional and as clean and as white and as crisp as possible. In-ice logos in the CCHA rinks going inside the blue lines, inside the zones. Branding from CCHA facilities with montages, league co-branded backdrops. And continuing on with team jerseys, all one size, all one color, representing the team in an organized look. All players will be sporting a CCHA logo on their helmet as well moving forward. Game pucks, all 8 teams will be using the same company, same branding, same team logo on one side, league logo on the other. Our refs jerseys are the same ones you see in the NHL with the extended orange armbands. And then even into our visiting locker room standards, we're really trying to increase our visiting standards on the road moving forward, providing shelves and stalls to provide that Division I atmosphere. We've also increased or invested in what we call league-wide skate sharpener exhaust systems. So all 8 teams will provide this for the visiting equipment manager to help our health of our equipment managers. And then just standards when teams go on the road. What do you have in the locker room? And we've reached out to our counterparts in the National Hockey League and the American Hockey League, and we're going to be providing those same type of things for players moving forward when they visit on the road. On top of that, from an athletic trainer standpoint, we've worked on emergency standards, EMS standards throughout the league. We've invested in what's called a CCHA red bag, although the bag is black. This will be on the bench in every rink for pregame skating games in case of an issue or a serious issue. So hoping to make the right steps to continue that Division I experience. And then new this year as well, our official video review system. It's an 8-input system. It'll have the clock tied in. We'll have the above nets at 1080p, 60 frames per second resolution. In true HD, we're adding blue line cameras this season as well that will also face towards the bench. So too many men calls should be accurate. And looking at the type of inputs, this should make the student athlete and the fan game day experience much better because it will be quicker reviews. It will not be the long reviews. Hopefully more quicker, more accurate, get back to playing hockey as well. And then towards the end here, just our trophies, the McNaughton Cup will be awarded to the regular season champion. This is 40 pounds of handcrafted silver. Between this and the Mason Cup coming for the playoff tournament champion, we're very, very happy with the 2 trophies that will be awarded in the CCHA. And then lastly, if you have not seen it already, it's on CCHA.com, but a CCHA TV commercial is airing across the US on the NHL network right now daily. And just a good way to kick off the first year in the CCHA. So again, just want to take a minute, thank the athletic directors, the presidents for their investment into what is happening in the CCHA and the upgrades that fans and our student athletes and all involved, including media, will see moving forward. So 10-10 right now, we'll move on. Up next, CCHA Commissioner Don Lucia. Don?
Thanks, Dom. And welcome to all of our media partners. Looking forward to the upcoming CCHA season. It's really hard to believe that 2 years ago, the CCHA was born by a group of 7 athletic directors and college presidents that wanted to compete at the highest level, wanted to be with like-minded schools, and that's how the CCHA started. Obviously, I've been on a little over 15 months, couldn't have been more excited to welcome University of St. Thomas into the group, into the CCHA. They fit everything that we looked and hoped that we would have as a part of our league. High standards, high academic standards, great location within their footprint of the CCHA. And what makes it exciting for me, and I think our fans, is that all 8 of these schools, they want to try to compete at the highest level. They're all like-minded. Their goal is to be in the NCAA tournament on a regular basis. And they're all committed to that. And you've heard Dom talk about the upgrade, the investments the president, the athletic directors have made, and that's a real credit to them, their institutions, that they do invest in our hockey programs and they want to see success. And that's what our goal is in the CCHA. I'd like to thank my CCHA staff. As I started and looked in the vision that we had for our league and what we were trying to build, you have to have staff members that share your vision and have the expertise. And we certainly heard that starting with Dominic Henning, our Director of Strategic Communication and Brand Enhancement. What he's been able to accomplish in 8 to 9 months is incredible. His dedication and his vision, his drive, has certainly been a tremendous asset to our league and will be for many years ahead. Dean Thibodeau has done a tremendous job with our operations, our assistant commissioner. To be able to have somebody that's on the inside that worked within the WCHA and the women's WCHA a year ago to transition into our league as a part-time basis over the course of the winter, moving full-time as of July 1st, just gives us the background and how a league operates and at a high standard. And he's just been invaluable as we've moved forward in the last year within the CCHA. And then Kevin Langseth, our Director of Officials. His passion was evident right away when I interviewed him, what his vision was for officials going forward, the importance of hiring a good staff. And when you think about Kevin, this spring went out and hired a 40-man crew, evaluated, brought them into the fold. They just returned from the Big Ten office as far as the officials are concerned with training for the upcoming season. I think we both agree on what the standards are going to be. I think we want to make sure that we allow our players to skate and play the game. And we want our high-end skilled players to be able to showcase their talent in the league this year and not be held back by hooking and holding and maybe some of the things that had gone on in the past. So that was certainly loud and clear from the coaches what their intent and their vision was for the CCHA, and I couldn't agree more. As far as COVID, we all know it's still on the table for this upcoming season. I'm happy to say that our staff and our officials are 100% vaccinated. Heading into the year, we want to do everything we can to make sure every game is played this upcoming season. All of our teams are vaccinated at an extremely high rate. We're really excited about that. We're going to follow all NCAA SSI guidelines for testing and protocols for vaccination and unvaccinated testing for all of our Tier 1 personnel. So we really believe we're in good shape for this upcoming season. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that we don't have to have any missed contests for the upcoming year. We did discuss whether if a game couldn't be played, was it going to be a no contest or a forfeit? We all agreed it will be a no contest this year, and we would have to switch to a points percentage for the upcoming season. But again, based on the number of players that we think will be available for every game, we don't anticipate that will happen. We will also be following, CCHA will be following all the guidelines for local campus, city, and state as far as what their policies are going to be. As of now, the players, the referees, and coaches will not have to wear masks. But again, that could change based on what happens over the next 30, 60, 90 days or the course of the season. Also, handshakes are going to be returning to the CCHA this year after every game. It may be more of a fist bump than a handshake, but we think that's an important element, and hopefully that can happen throughout the course of the season. And one of the things I'm most excited about for this upcoming year, not only have the presidents and ADs really invested in the CCHA, but really it's the quality of our coaches. And that's what really dictates our program. And we have an outstanding veteran group. I know all 8 of them personally over the course of the last number of years and being involved in college hockey. And to think that our group has over 100 years of head coaching experience at the college hockey level. That continuity, I think, is important for every program. Our group has that. University of St. Thomas begins and embarks on their first year of Division I with a veteran head coach of over 20 years of experience, Enrico Blasi. Couldn't be more excited about that hire. We really anticipate a highly competitive league. You saw 3 different teams in Bemidji State, Michigan Tech, and Minnesota State Mankato had first place votes. Much like a year ago, 3 teams made it into the NCAA tournament in Lake Superior State, Bemidji State, which knocked off Wisconsin, and obviously Minnesota State advancing all the way to the Frozen Four last year. And that's really has set the table up nicely for the year upcoming. That the competition that the group showed last year was tremendous, and we anticipate that's going to be the case this upcoming season. So we really want to try to compete at the highest level. We want to have success in the NCAA tournament. And there's no doubt in my mind with our group of coaches, the commitment from the athletic directors and the presidents that we're off to a really good start and really look forward to a competitive CCHA season upcoming. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions from the media that you may have.
If you do have a question for Don, please utilize the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. Once it is your turn, you will see a window pop up asking you to be a panelist. Please accept and remember to unmute yourself. Please state your name and your affiliation before asking your question. Dave?
Hey, Don. Dave Ellis from TV6 and Fox UP in Marquette. We know you're well connected in college hockey and the broader game. What are hockey people asking you about the CCHA?
Well, one of the things that's been a surprise is the amount of communication there is between the commissioners and how well we work together. Going in, I didn't understand that there's biweekly calls all season long, not only talking about the upcoming season, but dictating some policy. And that's something that I did not understand heading in, how well and how connected the commissioners are together. But overall in college hockey, just the excitement of the CCHA returning, the commitment level that you've seen, I mean, all the different upgrades that Dom has talked about, I just sense that excitement throughout college hockey and certainly our fans.
We're approaching 10:20 for Kevin Langseth. Don will be available again towards the end under the closing remarks. We might be able to sneak one more in, but probably with the respect of our coaches' times today with practice, maybe we'll move on and come back to Don. If you do have a question for Don, Don should be available again at 11:50 today. Don, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, the CCHA Director of Officiating, Kevin Langseth. Kevin?
Good morning, Dom, and thank you. I just have a few quick comments to start, and then I'll be happy to take any questions that we have. We had a busy off season. We started way back in March, opened up an online portal to invite people to become part of the staff. And it was great news. We had over 110 people apply. So it's phenomenal to see the interest in becoming part of the CCHA staff. April, that meant I watched a lot of game film to try and narrow down the field of candidates. In May, we held a skating camp to further nail down, reduce the number of candidates that were available. June, I selected the staff. August, we prepped for training camp. September, we held training camp. And I can't tell you, the energy that was evident when we were in Chicago was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I've been going to camps for over 30 years, and this has got to be one of the best ones that I've ever been to. The guys are excited. They're just chomping at the bit to come out and officiate and get the season started, and so am I. This group, I think, is well aware that college hockey rules have the opportunity to change on an every other year basis. This is not a rule change year, and so there's nothing to add. I would also like to echo the kudos to the presidents and athletic directors for their investment. The two biggest ones that will be noticeable for us on the ice are the referee mics and the replay system. We think we're going to be faster. It's going to be great for educating and keeping the fans informed as to what exactly is happening. If we go to a video review, if we announce a penalty, you're going to know it right away. So with that, Dom, I'm ready for the first question. And if there aren't any, I'm going to take that as a compliment.
I'm sure you'll probably have a few. Again, please utilize the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen if you have a question for our Director of Officiating, Kevin Langseth. Kevin, while we wait for those to come in, I just had a question for you. Going from the WCHA last year as an assistant to the CCHA this year, now as the director, how has your role changed and how has the experience been?
The role has changed. Don, when I was going through the interview process, Don gave me some really good advice. He said, Kevin, going forward, you have to think of yourself as the head coach of the officiating staff. And that was really, really good advice. You have to plan for the future. You got to be recruiting just like a coach is. So you've got to be planning for the future. You've got to realize that seniors graduate and move on out of your program. So, you've got to look at officials moving on as well. And you have to coach up your third and fourth liners so that they can be a valuable member of the team and contribute when called upon. So that was great advice that I got from Don. It's different. It was a paradigm shift for me. And it served me well as I've gone through and selected the staff.
Couple questions coming in. Let's go with Ryan first.
Hey, Kevin, this is Ryan Steig from the tripleleague.com. My question is, will the league be able to provide any information to the media after a call has been made, an explanation after each game or perhaps the next day?
I'm assuming that you're talking about major penalties or suspensions. And yes, if we have a suspension, we would do a normal press release on that. Major penalties, we're not sharing those comments with the media, but we are sharing them with the coaches involved so that they can we'll send out video clips, show the major, why it received a game misconduct or a game disqualification for educational and training purposes so the coaches can use that with their players.
Kevin, one other thing you may want to touch on there is also you're sharing with officials to create kind of one idea, correct, of what the penalty may be?
Yes, that's right. Thank you. We'll be sending out clips routinely to the staff that we find are great examples of plays called and communication skills, positioning skills. We'll be sending out quizzes throughout the season. So there's going to be a lot of education that takes place with the officiating staff on a day-to-day basis, week to week, throughout the season.
Again, if you have a question for Kevin, the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen. Next up, Dave.
Hey, Kevin, Dave Ellis from TV6 and Fox UP and Marquette. Congratulations on the job, by the way. Always good to see another Uper in a position of power in hockey. What's the supervisory procedure going to be on site? Will you have a referee observer at each arena, or are you going to use that war room that Dom's talking about for highlights, that there'll be one central location that you'll be monitoring games from?
Thank you, Dave. We will be utilizing a little bit of both. I'll be going out to sites periodically, but we're going to, for this year, we're going to rely more on the war room mentality. Dom is going to be viewing games. I'm going to be viewing, if I'm not at a site, I'm going to be viewing games and making notes as we progress through the evening. Post game, I'll be able to provide feedback to the officials almost immediately. And the nice thing is, with our improved technology, if we have special events that take place, for example, if there's a major called in the game, Dave, I'm going to get a buzz on my phone that says major called in Michigan Tech versus whomever, and I'll be able to pull that up immediately to review it, evaluate it, and make a determination as to whether or not additional penalties will be assessed. So no, we will not have on-site observers. I think that was the last portion of your question.
Next up, Jack Hittinger.
Hey guys, just Jack Hittinger from USCHO. Just kind of a question about the expanded video and camera stuff. I guess you said that we're adding blue line cameras and some of the other camera work that you're doing. Is that standard across college hockey for other leagues, or is this something that you guys are sort of trying to pioneer and turn more professional, I guess? And I guess, how is that going to help your officials just in general? Obviously it'll be a big help, but maybe just talk a little bit about the reasoning that went into making that decision.
Thank you, Jack. No, we are not the pioneers with it, but not every conference has it. The 8 cameras, first of all, our video replay system is the best in all of college hockey. The best in all of college hockey. It's near the NHL caliber. So our speed in which we're able to process the video and have it made available is just it's exceptionally fast. So that's going to be a big thing as far as our speed and handling reviews. As far as the cameras, why did we add the blue line cameras? We added the blue line cameras to aid in giving options for reviewing potential offside penalties, or excuse me, offside infractions, too many men infractions that led to a goal. So those were crucial, and it was a big part of the technology investment that the presidents and athletic directors approved. In addition, those cameras can sometimes be used if we wanted to take a look at a potential penalty where we're considering ejecting a player. So having the 8 cameras is going to assist us with making on-ice call, and it will help us as we go through the video review for potential major infractions.
The other benefit to the installation of this technology in our 8 arenas, this will allow blue line cameras and our above net goals being sent to TV production for fans to see as well. And again, just to reiterate on what Kevin said, if there's a major, the technician can press the letter M, it gets sent to the commissioner, Lucia, and Kevin. So the league is aware of it instantly. You can press the letter H, highlights get sent to SIDs in the league office, and just really wrap ties in the league as a whole. We do have one more question. We'll go back to Dave, and then next up, Bemidji State head coach Tom Serratore. Dave?
Hey, Kevin. When major calls are made, will they stick with the on-ice call being a game misconduct and then allow it to be upgraded to a DQ via review, or will DQ calls be made on ice at that time?
That's a great question, Dave. 99.9% of the time, they're going to go 5 in a game misconduct and let Don and myself worry about whether or not it's a disqualification. The there may be an oddball exception, but for the overwhelming percentage of the time, on ice is going to stick with the game misconduct, and DQs are going to be left up to myself and Don. And when we review those, we solicit input. We share those with other conference supervisors of officials, get their look at it, ask for their opinion, and see whether or not they concur with my decision or they feel differently. Great question.
That's all the time we have for Kevin today, 10:30. We do have to move along. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Thank you, Dom. Looking for a great season.
Up next, Tom Serratori, head coach, Bemidji State University. Tom?
Trying to get organized right here, Dom, but no, we're excited for the new season, excited for the new league, and we wish everybody well. As far as the Beavers, our schedule this year, we feel it's the most parity we've had since the old WCHA. We feel these 8 teams are going to be very strong, and every night's going to be a dogfight. 14, we played 14 games against teams who were in the NCAA tournament last year. Our non-conference games this year are North Dakota, Duluth, St. Cloud, and Arizona State. So competitive non-conference schedule, competitive conference schedule. I think the fans are going to get their money's worth. As far as our team, we have 18 players back last year who played 10 or more games. It was a little bit of a shortened season with 29 games because of the COVID protocols, but it's going to be very. We're going to have pretty good competitive depth and with some good freshmen coming in. Other than that, our leadership group, we have a lot of returners from last year. Our captains are going to be Ethan Somoza, Owen Sillinger, and Brad Johnson. And our alternate captains, we're going to have 5 captains total with Alex Iarulo and Alex Adams. Ethan Somoza and Brad Johnson, they are coming back. They opted in for a 5th year. We call it the super seniors. So they're back as 5th year seniors.
Okay, we will open it up to questions for head coach Tom Serratori with Bemidji State. Again, if you do have a question, please utilize the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. Remember to unmute yourself and please state your name and your affiliation before asking the question. Quite a few coming in. Let's start with Anthony.
Morning, Coach. Anthony Travaglia with College Hockey News. When we look back at kind of the experience that the group gained in the NCAA tournament last year, what can you take from that experience and apply it, to this year to make the group, more successful?
Well, I don't know what you do. I mean, the bottom line was, we played in a lot of big games last year. Of course, that NCAA tournament stage is a big one, but I think it's like anything. It reinforces. Doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're playing well and if you're dialed in and you can beat anybody, and that's college hockey. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is it just reinforces the same thing that the coaches are talking about. And we told our guys the other day, it was interesting. I met with a colleague this summer, and we talked about competition in college hockey. It doesn't matter, 1 to 60, and he uses with his team that they're a half a letter grade better, a half a letter grade worse, or the same letter grade as the teams are playing. And I think that was just a great analogy. It's one of those things that is a great trigger. I think it's a great visual, and that's what it's about. And you have to be ready, and every play matters. And it boils down to just, again, one play at times. So that's probably the biggest thing. I don't necessarily know if it's the NCAA tournament, but it reinforces what we're trying to sell to our team and what kind of messages we're trying to convey to our team.
Next up, Christian Babcock.
Hi, Tom. Christian Babcock from the Bemidji Pioneer. You mentioned all those returning players. How do you build off such a successful season that you had last year with all those players back?
Well, everybody's got a lot of returners, Christian. That's the one thing you're going to find out, not only in the CCHA, but in college hockey, because of the opt-in rule, because of the 5th year, you're going to be surprised how experienced teams are going to be, how old teams are going to be, and that's everybody. So I don't necessarily know if we're have any more experience than anybody else. And the one thing that we did talk about it. Another thing we talked about in our first meeting is it doesn't matter it doesn't matter really what happened last year. And we have a lot of experience. We have a lot of the same guys, but we better have the same players, and our players better improve. Those same guys have to improve as well. So I've been in this game a long time, and it just doesn't mean anything if you have returners. Those returners, there has to be a purpose right there, and they have to be ready to take that next step. So hopefully that happens. But again, time will tell. But those are the things that, again, we're talking about as a group, and there's never any guarantees. That's for sure. You got to play the game. That's why they drop the puck.
Ryan?
Hey, Tom, this is Ryan from the tripledeek.com. An exhibition game was added to your schedule against North Dakota. Do you feel a game like that will be a big benefit to your team to start the year?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question it's going to be a benefit. You're playing somebody with the caliber of North Dakota. I think it's going to be a great game. We're going to play a lot of guys. They're going to play a lot of guys. It is an exhibition game, so it's not win at all costs. It's not. But it's also going to give us an opportunity to watch some really quality video. That's to me, the biggest thing is when you play those exhibition games. We haven't played them in a couple of years, but the biggest thing is what kind of video, what kind of teaching clips, what are you going to learn from that exhibition game? Because you're playing 6 days later.
Chaz?
Hey, Tom, Chaz Moose, Lakeland News up here in Bemidji. Yeah, you talk about those super seniors. I mean, how valuable is it to have guys, especially leadership, with like specifically Ethan Samoza and then Brad Johnson, like you said?
Nah, Chad, you can't put you can't put a price tag on having those guys back. It's again, you hit it on the head. The experience, not only the playing experience, but they're quality people. And when you have quality people like Johnson, Ethan back, that just it spreads to the rest of the locker room. And those guys, they know too. I mean, these guys know. I mean, when those guys said they're coming back, you could just see the whole room light up. And as from a coaching staff, we lit up as well, because we just know what we're getting from those guys night in and night out. Again, not only the effort on the ice, but what they do off the ice, the messages they send, how they conduct themselves in the classroom, outside the classroom, in the weight room. They're A+ people.
Matthew?
Matt Pocket, Yes FM, and Sault Ste. Marie. Coach, Zach Driscoll had a really good career for you guys. What's the plan going forward in net for this year?
It's competition, and that's what it's about right now. It's competition, and we have 3 goalies, and it's just that's what I can't say anything more than that, because we've only had our 4 hours a week practices, but they're competing for a job, and it's a great opportunity for these guys. And we just got to let that play out. You just got to let it play out.
Time for one more for Coach. I just saw 2 put their hands down at the same time. Dave, did you have something? Christian.
Tom, in spite of your success last year, and it was an extremely successful year, I would think preparing for the season with the COVID uncertainty and the protocols was difficult. So has it been any easier this year?
Yeah, a little easier. It's still not the way it was. We're not back to the normalcy of a couple of years ago, but it's a lot easier, and things are a lot better. So yeah, I mean, it helps, but there's always some, it's there. There's no question. It's there in a multitude of different ways. But you also we don't discuss it. We don't talk about it. We just, the biggest thing is the task at hand. What's the task at hand? Practice that particular day. The theme in practice, what we're trying to accomplish as a team, and we're back to just, they're back to practicing and playing, and we're back to teaching and coaching, and I think that's what it is. But it's there. We know it's there. Well, we really have we haven't really discussed it. Not too a little bit, but we really haven't gotten into too much detail about everything else, because again, the guys are they've done a great job, and we're just trying to focus on the season.
10:40. Coach, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, gang.
That was head coach Tom Serratore, the Bemidji State Beavers. Next up, Michigan Tech's Joe Sean. Coach, if you don't mind, an opening statement on your expectations coming into the season.
How are we? Good, you got me?
Got you perfect.
Okay, good. First of all, I want to thank you, Dom, thank for the league for putting on this event, thank the media for being here. It's been a lot of work that's gone on by a lot of people, not hockey related, such as yourself, such as Don Lucia and the entire league staff, officiating crew, getting everything ready, administrators certainly for taking the big step to get us to this point. I think that there's been an upgrade for sure in the exposure of the league, and that's I think that's a real credit. Everything is the detail, the attention to detail has been great. The promotion of the league has been great, and now it's time for us to get on and perform and promote the league ourselves. Regarding that, I think that you saw a little bit of a preview as to what we'll have this year as a league. Last year, with the two Alaska teams being out, with Huntsville being in, it condensed it down to an 8-team league and gave us a good look. You put St. Thomas in, who's going to be immediately impactful, I'm sure, with Rico Blase, a tremendous coach behind the bench. And you put them in place of Alabama Huntsville, and you look at basically the league that we're going to have this year. In that league was prepared our teams to compete well in the national tournament. You saw a great performance, great effort by Bemidji. You saw wins by Mankato to get to the Final Four, and you saw Lake Superior play a good game. They generated a lot of offense against UMass, who was the eventual national champion. So I think our strength of schedule will accomplish what the goal was, I believe, by the administrators, upping the bar, trying to get ourselves, we know what we have from within, but get ourselves respected from around and make sure that the pairwise, our strength of schedule and things within the league allows teams an opportunity to get to the national tournament. And that's really what I think the move was about. Quickly regarding our team, we return a lot, as everybody does, as Ernie said earlier. I thought we had a really good hockey team last year. Everything except one dynamic, which was scoring goals. We were able to do it on the power play. We had a great power play, somewhere around 29% in the league. Our penalty kill was up nationally. Our special teams were very good. 5-on-5 scoring, has to improve, and that's our biggest area that we had to address. And I think we did that in the off season in the areas we needed to most address, which was the center ice position and replacing one really good player on defense, Tyler Rockwell, who logged a lot of minutes for us. I think we did that through the transfer portal, through recruiting, and in different areas. And we return our goaltending, which I think is tremendous. And I think that showed last year. We return our defensive core with a couple of key additions to that core. Michael Carroll is transferred from BC. He's immediately elevating himself into a leadership role on our team. You can see his poise, you can see his maturity, his character. I think Grant Doctor is going to be a significant player for us. He's showing in what little we can have with him right now that he's going to be able to come in and impact for us and help us offensively in different areas. And probably maybe the most since we've had Mitch Renke, since we lost Mitch Renke a couple years ago, signing after his sophomore year, having that type of player, dynamic offensively. And at forward position, we return some very good players that generate a lot of offense and will need to take a step in scoring goals. Obviously with Trenton Bliss and Alex Bretzman being our captains and our leadership and a great character base below them. And the addition of Tyrone Bronte from Alabama Huntsville as a transfer, that gives us, I think, what we need to do, the little things that we need to do to get more competitive game in and game out at the offensive side, puck possession side, second chance side offensively. And then we added Matt Quersha, a big size strength forward from Boston University, which will help us. So that's a bit of a rundown on our team. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. We're excited to get going. As everybody is, we're excited to get going and be able to expand our hours with our group and things like that to get ready to play. Before someone asks, we do have an exhibition game against Northern Michigan. We're going to treat that maybe a little differently than Ernie's treating his game with North Dakota. For us, it's going to be playing a lot of players and getting a good evaluation opportunity in to really see what we have, because we're finally at the point where freshmen have to be good to get in our lineup. And it's been a long process, a lot of work to get there, but that's the way the good teams are, where you have some really good freshmen out of the lineup, and then our job is to get them to buy into what we're doing, develop and work themselves and push the competition depth of our team. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. Be glad to answer any questions.
Great opening statement, Joe. And again, sorry to be repetitive, but media, they are coming and going throughout. So if you do have a question for Joe, please utilize the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. And once it's your turn, please remember to unmute yourself, state your name and your affiliation before your question. Dave Ellis.
Hey, Joe, Dave Ellis from TV6 and Fox UP and Marquette. Ron Mason always used to say his best teams were the ones that were player-led. With all the veteran leadership that you have on this team, how much can you let this team be a player-led team?
Hi, Dave. Thanks for the question. It's good to hear your voice. I think you know me well enough and how we operate here that's always the goal. The goal is to as a staff, move in the background and implement decisions and let the team monitor the team. I always say that the most important meeting is the meeting that occurs after I walk out of the room. The message is sent to the group, and I'm more than confident. This group of seniors right now have been really the backbone of our program since the day they walked in as freshmen. So very confident that the right message is being sent to the team. The work ethic so far and through the summer has been outstanding. Thanks for the question.
Dirk.
Coach, you talked a lot about needing to get better at the center position. Do you feel like you've done that coming into this season?
I do. Again, with the addition of Tyrone Bronte, he's an all-league player from last year, an all-league, all-rookie team player last year. Matt Quersha has given us a dynamic in the little we've been able to see him so far that I really like. As you know, I like a little bit of size and strength up front, and now we have plenty of size and strength up front. We wanted to improve our overall speed. We've done that. I think it gives us an opportunity with the additions and the depth at center now, which last year, as you know, we moved Justin Misiak off the wing to the center for the first time in maybe his life playing center, except back in minor hockey. And he did an exceptional job for us, but our production offensively out of the center ice position needed to improve drastically. So we can now get the energy of Justin Misiak back on the wing, back as an F1 type of a guy, getting in there, doing what he does best, and playing, a gritty kind of a game and not reading so much. So I do think we've addressed that, and I look for that to be a strength of our team.
Anthony, College Hockey News.
Morning, Coach. You mentioned the need for more 5-on-5 scoring this season, and you addressed it a little bit, with some new blood coming in. How do you take, those guys that are coming in and combine them with what you already have to make sure, once you are on the ice, that 5-on-5 scoring is improved?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. It's, where you look for chemistry with new bodies, but there won't be a ton of new bodies. So we kind of have an idea, I think, of what some of our key offensive performers need. If you look at last year, if you have any awareness of our team, we picked up a player at Christmas time off the portal from RPI, Tristan Ashbrook. He's a scorer naturally, and he came in and nearly got double digits in goals in the second half with a couple of goals disallowed. So we do feel we have some natural scorers that need to get themselves more in their role. You have a couple players on our team, Hallinan, Bretzman. Those guys are trigger guys. They're guys that need to get the puck and need to play with some guys that can draw attention, and so they can find some openings and pull the trigger. They'll score goals that way. They do it on the power play, and they'll do that more 5-on-5 with some players with them that could complement them. And there'll be some emergence of some young guys. I think Rylan Mosley is a tremendous player that's showing great growth with him. Parker Strutsky looks like he's ready to really break out and become the player that we've always felt he could be. And he may play some center ice for us this year as well to even add to our depth. He's maybe the smartest overall player, the highest IQ we have on our team. We certainly have some smart players, but he's certainly up there. And we've been trying to work with him on getting his size strength level up and things like that. So we look for a breakout year out of him, which will give us great offensive instincts coming through the middle as well. So we think it's got to generate more out of that position than out of the wing where it's been generating. So we think we've addressed what we need to address, and we certainly created chances last year, but oftentimes it was the wrong guy getting the chance, and we want to make sure we do our best to get the right guy in the right spot with the puck on his stick.
Dave Dennis?
Hi, Joe. Dave Dennis, 100.3 The Point in Marquette. For you and for all the coaches, this time is kind of a unique one with your roster basically getting another year of eligibility should they choose to take it, and players now kind of have a one-time free agency at their option as well. What kind of unique challenges does that present, both in shifting the recruiting and working to retain players through the course of their time?
Yeah, great question. Hi, Dave. It's great to hear your voice. We've chosen to do a couple of different things. I chose this year with having the two players come back. We chose to have two players come back, very good players in Mark Sinclair, goaltender, and Justin Misiak, great players that'll impact our team. And outside of that, I chose to expand the roster with a couple of transfer portal, three transfer portal players in total, for a couple of reasons. For the safety of our team, as far as the COVID protocols, not knowing what's going to happen, and with the changing dynamic of this college, free agency, for lack of a better term, in that I feel it may be better in our best interest to develop from within and not rely. I'm much more comfortable this year returning depth at every position, returning a team that you could put on the ice and play at any given, without even recruiting anybody. And that those jobs have to be taken by freshmen instead of where we were 4 years ago when we brought in a very good freshman class and relied on them to carry the weight. That created, it creates the problems that you're talking about. So when guys are developing from within, growing, elevating themselves in the lineup, you're investing in them. We're hoping with the great community that we're in, the great school we have, when these guys can finally, some of these guys see the crowds that we have, the enthusiasm, the game environment that we have, that we can keep these guys around and develop our guys from within and elevate guys in our lineup. And really, if you look at it in a lot of ways, Mankato's done that very well. They've retained their players, the ones that they wanted. And it's been hard for some really good players to get in the lineup. And that, I'm using them as an example, but that's what great teams do, great programs, is they create that competition and the cream rises to the top. Thanks, Dave.
We have more questions coming in, but we do have to move on. I apologize, guys, as it's now Coach Bob Daniels at Ferris State's session. Joe, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for all you do, Dom.
That was Joe Sean, head coach at Michigan Tech. Now the head coach at Ferris State University, Bob Daniels. Coach, if you do not mind, can you please give an opening statement on your thoughts on the season expectations?
Got me, Dom?
Good, thank you.
Hey, I'd like to start by first saying that, it's exciting time right now. The CCHA, to me, it seems like the very first day, like this is like kind of our first event, but in reality, there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, Dom, as you probably know way better than I. And, I just like to say, Don's done an amazing job so far, Don Lucia, and he's put together a tremendous staff, and with Dean Thibodeau as assistant commish for operations, adding yourself as director of communications, Dom Henning, and then Kevin Langseth as our director of officials. I think we've got a strong front office. I think we have a strong league. We've got a lot of energy moving forward right now. I've seen the commercials on the NHL Network. They look tremendous. And there's a lot of enthusiasm right now for the CCHA. And, the fact, too, that we've retained the McNaughton Cup as our regular season championship trophy, as well as really saluting the history of the CCHA and having now the Ron Mason Cup for our playoff champions. I just think we're heading in a great direction, and I'm excited, and I think the players are excited, and certainly the institutions that make up the CCHA are all committed to college hockey and our programs. Regarding our team, last year I thought COVID really hit us. It hit every team, but maybe just because I see how it affected us, I feel as though it had a greater impact. And I say that because we had 20 freshmen and sophomores a year ago. And so our sophomores, COVID had hit in March, their freshman year. They were on spring break, never came back to campus. And so we lost the entire spring and summer, which I think are really important in the developmental process of our players, as well as the incoming freshmen never really, when the players showed up in August, we were immediately 2 weeks in lockdown, got out of that. And then within a week, we were back to 3 weeks because COVID started to hit our team. And we never got our legs underneath us. We're not in the type of condition a Division I hockey team should be in. We were more like a rec team, I would say, in terms of our conditioning. And it was no one's fault. We could just never quite get, it shows you how important the summer is when you don't have that base in the summer. And the fact that we had so many freshmen and sophomores that didn't have the base. I thought our returning players, the Marshall Moises, Justin McCallions, those guys had the base and they had successful seasons because of that. But now, I had an opportunity to listen to Joey Sean talk about the tech team and where they're at. Well, we're in a very similar position. Probably all our teams in our conference are going to be, but we are now older, we're deeper. We've got a full summer of training under our belts. And this is as deep a team as we've had in a long time up front. I think about the only concern I have up front is, do we have a championship level first line? I think we definitely have 3 top lines, a great fourth line, a fifth line that's going to press for playing time. We're carrying more players than we have, given the players getting another year eligibility. But up front, I look for some breakout years, and Liam McDougall and Marshall Moise are both returning for their 5th year. They're going to see a ton of ice time. They should be impact players if they can remain injury free. Guys like Ethan Stewart, who's one of our leading returning scorers from a year ago, Jake Transit, Mitch Dealstra. I mean, all those, a lot of depth, players ready to break out. Dallas Tulik, Stepan Corney, and Antonio Venuto. Those guys saw a lot of ice time a year ago. Maybe not necessarily warranted, but just given the circumstance that we were in. But now they've not only played a lot of minutes, but they played valuable minutes. They played important minutes, last minute of the game type minutes. Brad Merrick, Zach Farmouth, and Caleb Ergang have already shown quite a bit as incoming freshmen. They're going to press for playing time. We're going to have good players in the stands that are going to be watching just because of the depth of our team, particularly up front. On defense, that was the area we were the youngest the past season, in that they were all freshmen and sophomores back on D. Our freshmen played a ton of minutes, and they weren't in the type of shape to really make those minutes great minutes. They were just trying to drink water out of the fire hose, if you will. But now all of a sudden, now we're going to be the beneficiaries of some really, good defensemen with some experience under their belt. Brendan Rons wasn't able to be in the lineup until the second half last year. He had played forward as a freshman, but he had a breakthrough year in the half the season he played. He was really good for us. Ben Schulteis, freshman last year, has looked outstanding. Blake Evanow, another sophomore year ago, those 3 really look good on defense. And then we're going to add a transfer from the portal, Brendan McElhannon. That's Justin McElhannon's brother. They are twins, not identical, but I can't tell the difference. So, I mean, they look a lot alike, but Brendan's coming from Robert Morris. He's going to all of a sudden inject some experience on the defensive end. So he's a newcomer, but he has collegiate, 3 years of playing with Robert Morris, as well as Nico DeVita as an incoming freshman. So all of a sudden, a year ago, inexperienced, maybe a little thin on the blue line. All of a sudden, we're experienced, and we've got depth there. And then finally in net, Logan Stein looks terrific. He's really in tremendous shape, quite a difference from a year ago. He looks good in the skill sessions we've had. I'm very excited about watching him this season. He has a chance to really be a difference maker in net. Rony Selman Kangas, who will be pressing for playing time, but he's been out so far this fall. Should be returning back to the ice here shortly, as well as Carter McPhail. So we're deep in net as well. So I'm excited about the season. I'm thrilled that we're now in the CCHA. Look forward to the puck dropping. We're ready to go.
Coach, thanks for your opening statement. Again, if you do have a question for head coach Bob Daniels, please utilize your raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen.
Before we get to a question, one other couple of new things here, though. Perk Weisenberger, our 10-year athletic director, who's done so much, not only for the hockey program, but for our athletic department as a whole. He's retiring in October. Steve Brocklebank will be filling that position. He's got big shoes to fill, but I'm very confident he's going to do a terrific job. But I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Perk Weisenberger for all he's done for our program and Ferris State athletics.
Very classy move, Coach. To the media we go. Dave Ellis.
Hey, Bob, Dave Ellis from TV6 and Fox UP and Marquette. With all the upheaval around college hockey, how comforting is it to know that all you have to do right now is worry about building your program and your team and not worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow? Am I going to have a place to play anymore?
Yeah, no, it's such a different year right now. It's such a different feel. And I say that with the hope that there's not some other variant that comes along. But I think a year ago, 90% of our time was spent on COVID protocols and just trying to find a way to practice. Hey, can we get 8 guys on the ice? Do we have a goalie today that we can go on the ice in practice? How do we put different guys in different locker rooms? We spent more time on COVID than we did on player development. But you know what? That was the cards everyone was dealt. And I'll always look back and think that was one of the best years I had in terms of the collegiality between the head coaches trying to get games in. Forget about wins and losses. Just, hey, how do we get to the rink and how do we get a game in? I thought the coaches worked extremely well. Schedules were changing. The amount of work that our administration and every administration did to see these kids get the opportunity to play is greatly appreciated. And that includes all our trainers from all our institutions. So what a difference a year makes. And now we're just worried about hockey, and it feels great, Dave. And good to hear from you, by the way.
Coaches comes in on the chat, asked us to ask it to you from Peter. He says, how has the new rules because of COVID allowing players an extra year of eligibility and the transfer portal affected your lineup with incoming freshmen?
Not too much. The only effect that it really had in terms of additional players is Brendan McCallion, and obviously, it helps that he had a brother here on the team. The impact of COVID and the extra year eligibility was a greater impact. We retained Liam McDougall and Marshall Moyce, and we're thrilled to have them back. Liam was our captain a year ago, and so they're welcome re-additions back to the program, but it hasn't had too great of an impact. I continue, it'll be interesting to see, we have 5 seniors this year, true seniors, if you will, and it'll be interesting to see, and that's going to come into play with, hey, where are we at with recruiting going into next year? Because those players retain an extra year eligibility as well. So it'll be interesting to see what players come back, what don't, and that muddies the waters in terms of what we're going to do recruiting for next year's team.
Dave Dennis.
Hi, Bob. Dave Dennis, 100.3 The Point in Marquette. As the teams move into a new era with the new CCHA, one of the strengths has to be the experience and the familiarity as a group, not only as coaches. I think Ty's probably the young one with a couple of years in already, and you're obviously very familiar with Rico. And then you take a look at the league office with Don and Dom and Kevin, and the fact that you all know each other and have established relationships has to be one of the positives as you move forward and getting things set for this year.
Yeah, it is. And there is familiarity with with everyone. I guess the only thing would be the addition of St. Thomas, you know, in terms of a new program, but you hit the nail on the head there. Rico's leading them, and I've known Rico for years, and he'll do a terrific job with that program and building that program. And then you're right, I've known Don Lucia for 30 some years. That goes back to the days when he was coaching at UAF. So, and Dom Henning, obviously he's worked at Ferris State in our sport communication department. Kevin Langseth, I've known him forever too, because of when he officiated the CCHA. So there's a lot of familiarity. And then again, I'd like to mention that COVID last year, there was a silver lining there. I thought, you know, why I knew a lot of the coaches, I'll take the one that you are very familiar with, Grant Patolny. It gave me a great opportunity to get to know Grant at a much more personal level as we all try to navigate through COVID. So I think, you know, it's a tight-knit group of coaches. Certainly when the puck drops, we want to beat each other, but there's a respect there of how they lead their programs, and there's a familiarity, and I think it'll make things very smooth this year as we transition to the CCHA.
John Raffel.
Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha, John.
Okay, I saw the mute button on here. Could you go back and talk about the goalie situation again? Is your thoughts will be Logan and Roney again, or together, or might one of them emerge and be a leading number one goalie for you? And how important is it going to be to have a outstanding goaltending?
Yeah, no, goaltending, you know, that's an area where, you know, just through circumstance, it hasn't been as good as what we've realized over the years. We've had a great tradition of All-American type goaltenders, and Taylor Nelson and Mike Brown and you know, Patrick Nagel. We've had Taylor Nelson. So we for a while there, I just thought it was great coaching, and then I realized no, it's great goaltending. Myself, I'm not married to either having a starter or having a tandem. I'm going to let that play out, and whichever goaltender, if one guy emerges, he's going to get the workload. I can say right now, you know, if I'm pressed just because Roney's been out with a bit of a nagging injury, but Logan Stein has looked so good here in the skill sessions that, you know, obviously to start the season, Logan will start as the number one, but, you know, I'm certain once Roney returns to the ice, he's going to make a play for playing time as well. And I think that type of, you know, that type of competition, it's only going to bring out the best in both of them.
Again, apologize to those with their hands raised. We are well over schedule and do have to move on. Bob, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Don.
Head coach Bob Daniels of Ferris State. Moving on now to the head coach of the Lake Superior State Lakers, Damon Witten. Damon, apologize for the delay. Thanks for being with us here today. An opening statement, if you don't mind, on your expectations for this season.
Yeah, thank you, Don. Appreciate it, and you know, appreciate everybody being on the call today and the coverage of the CCHA. I know most of the coaches have talked a little bit about how we've gotten here, so I'm going to try to shorten that up to get us back on target and time here. But certainly each institution, presidents and athletic directors, you know, a great kudos to them for working on the CCHA, and to Commissioner Lucia, Dom, and the whole entire CCHA staff just did a remarkable job to get us to this launch point. I'm sure the whole league office will breathe a little sigh of relief. The pressure can now go to the coaches and performing on the ice to carry the banner. But again, just a great job by all campus communities, our presidents, our athletic directors, and again, Don and his staff. We're really excited about it. Obviously, institutionally here at Lake State, the CCHA has a great history and tradition. You know, I look over my shoulder out at many championship banners. And so when we talk about to our fans, to our alumni, you know, as we've traveled this summer, the excitement level's off the charts for Lake State to be going back to the CCHA. You know, and so we're really looking forward to that part of it as well, and getting that launched. You know, in terms of our team, you know, we've talked a lot about leadership the last few years here, and we feel like once again we've got a strong leadership group that's going to lead us. Something we take a lot of pride in is the way we develop our student athletes and our leaders. And this year's group will be no different. Our captain, Louis Badon, is a tremendous player on the ice, As good as he is on the ice, he's probably a better human being off the ice and in the classroom. So we've got a great captain in Louis Badon. Supporting him with letters will be senior defenseman Jacob Nordquist, who again, another great player. Miroslav Muka, senior forward, and junior forward Dustin Mans. So it's a really strong group. Each guy has some different strengths and qualities to the way they lead. And as a group and with the other upperclassmen, we feel like we're in a really good spot with that leadership group, just like we've had the last couple of years. That has really allowed us to take a big step forward with the program. Unique a little bit too with our leadership group. It reflects our team with this heavy international flavor. Louis from France, Jacob Nordquist is a Swede, Miroslav Muka Slovak, and fortunately we've got a Michigan native and Dustin Mans as a Michigan native. That's important. Dustin will do a good job there and represent the USA in this very diverse locker room that we've built and we carry. I think along with that leadership group is a very strong D-corps returning. A couple of key guys that will lead the way there. I mentioned Jacob Nordquist already. He's got a couple of Swedes on the back end with him, and Arvid Henriksen, now a junior, who's played a lot of critical minutes and situations for us. Jacob Bankston, a sophomore Swede defenseman now. Took a big step throughout the year. He was a little bit, buried because of some experience in front of him on that left side, but had a great finish to the year, and he's looked really strong early on. So Jacob Bankston will take a big step. And then transfer portal addition, Jake Willits from Ferris State, a former all rookie league player. Jake will step into that lineup and bring, experience. And that was something as we graduated a couple key seniors. We wanted to look at some experience to replace those guys. So Jake Willits will do that along with some other returners like Mitch Oliver, amongst other guys. So it's an experienced group and a deep group that we're really excited about. I think the same thing in net. There's a little bit of inexperience because we graduated Merrick Mittens, who was a Richter Award finalist, one of the best goaltenders in the country. But if you look at the other Richter Award finalists and Spencer Knight, Jack LaFontaine, and Dryden McKay, our guys, Ethan Langenegger and Seth Isley, played as many games as those three backups combined on those teams. And I think that speaks, volumes about the way we feel about this goaltending group. Easton Hess is a freshman who will join them. But we'll start off with a very great competition between Seth Isley and Ethan Langenegger. They would have had a couple more starts had we not lost games due to COVID last year. But each guy, has a little bit of experience because we trusted them so much to play them, where I think it would have been really easy just to ride Merrick's mittens all season long. We knew how good these guys were and how good they'll be and how important they're going to be this year for us. So we were able to find some very valuable minutes for both of those guys, and that's really going to help us as we start the season as well. And then I think obviously the question is going to be, how do we score? How do we play some of our scoring? And that's not a new question for us. If we look back, Diego Cuglietta, who ended up leading the country in scoring his senior year, had 7 goals as a junior and jumped, I think, to 25, whatever it was. Max Humitz ended up, I think, 3rd or 4th in the country in scoring his senior year. He had a similar jump. And Ashton Calder is one of those guys who exited the program. He had 5 goals as a freshman, ended up with 16 goals last year. So I think our associate head coaches, Mike York and Zach Sizek, have done just a fabulous job of development with our roster and our players. And, we expect that development to continue. So we'll have some guys that will step up a little bit more by committee early on. But we mentioned Louis Badon. Jack Jeffers will have to step up and take a bigger role. He had a good year last year. Miroslav Muka, one of our assistant captains, once again, I think he's ready to take on some of that offense. Brandon Percelli, the transfer from Minnesota Duluth, played with us last year and had a strong year. He's been really good early on. And our last portal addition for this year, Harrison Roy from Boston College. Harry will step in and take on some of those scoring roles, along with other newcomers. And some of those guys are freshmen, some of them are returning guys. But that's a little bit how we'll address those scoring losses. And, our goal is to learn from that NCAA game. We had a strong game versus UMass, the national champion. Our goal is to learn from that to get back to the tournament and advance in the NCAA tournament this year.
Okay, quite a few questions coming in. Let's start things off with Brad Cachamilio.
Thanks, Dom, for setting this up. Damon, maybe we've talked a lot over the last year or so about transfer portal guys and bringing guys in like Percelli and Jeffers. What is it about Willett specifically that you mentioned his experience? What is it specifically, maybe further to that, made him a guy that you guys wanted to bring in?
Yeah, thanks, Brad, for the question. Again, that was a big part of it. Will Rydell and Lucas Keibel were really good players for us. They were leaders. They played huge minutes. And so instead of just turning, Jacob Bankston, those were left shot defensemen. So we've got Jacob Bankston, Artie Borshoff, Sebastian Medema practiced with us half the year because he couldn't come back over to visa issues. So we have guys that, have played, but instead of looking at freshmen to step into those big roles from day one, if we could go find the right defenseman, we were in the portal obviously, but we weren't just in there to grab a defenseman to plug in. It had to be the right defenseman who can improve our team and make us better. So Jake does that in a lot of ways. A very gifted power play player, and that's one I think he can shoot and distribute. I think we've lacked a little bit of a true shooter, so he'll help us on the power play as well. But he's also got good size and experience. I think he's going to really thrive in the way we play, our style of play, and our defending. So there's a lot of different attributes he'll bring to replace some of those losses, and again, not fall right in the shoulders of a freshman. And I think Jacob Bankston, again, he's a good example of it. We didn't have to thrust Jacob right into a major role. We were able to really bring him along slowly and set him up for success. And I think it's really showing the way he played this year. So Jake Willits will allow us to do that with other young guys on our roster.
Ryan Stieg. Sorry, Damon, did you have more?
Hi, Damon. Ryan Stieg with the Triple League. You guys kind of, snuck up on some people last year. Now the poll has come out and says you're predicted to finish sixth. Are you taking that into account at all, or you guys just don't really care what polls say?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if you follow college hockey, it wasn't a 1 year kind of blip. I think over the last 3 years, we're 11th in the country in wins. I mentioned Diego led the country in scoring. So, we've kind of probably took a little bit longer than I wanted to get to where we're at and some of the steps we've taken. But again, it wasn't a 1 year kind of surprise and jump up on people. It's been a bit of a process for us to get here. Obviously to sustain it and stay on top is a very challenging thing to do. But so the polls came out, our guys will be aware of them, but we're just going to keep concerning ourselves with playing Laker hockey and building our culture and continuing to, compete for championships. I'm really excited about the Mason Cup. Obviously I played for Coach Mason. I guess the office I'm sitting in wasn't here when he was here, but he founded this program here at Lake Superior State. So not only does it mean a lot to Lake Superior State University, but just in my own life and the impact he had on me and the rest of our staff, or at least Coach York, who also played under him. So, that Mason Cup is something that we would love to win in honor of Coach, and we'll be looking at that as well.
Matt? Matt, if you're talking, you're muted.
Hey, Damon, Matt Pocket, Bill Crawford here from the SFM and CCHA Marie. Tournament champions in the WCHA last season. Do you come into this year with that champion swagger still, or do you kind of put that in the cabinet and say, new year, new project?
Yeah, great question, Matt, and thank you for asking. I think there's a little bit of a combination. Last year's last year, and it's over. And so the celebration and the trophy and all that. I mean, we have a banner unveiling to get through that opening Saturday night against St. Thomas for Great Lakes State weekend. But last year's in the past. But you do learn from it. We've learned how to win. It's not been an easy process here to change that culture and to learn to win and compete for a championship and to get back to the NCAA. So we want to take those valuable lessons from last season and build upon them and grow from them. So there's a fine line there from moving on and being in the past, but also using what it takes to win, how we got there, and helping us get to the next step. We want to get back to the tournament and we want to move on to the Frozen Four. So there'll be a little bit of both of that to that question now.
Let's just do one more. Sorry, guys. Dave Ellis.
Hey, Wits, Dave Ellis from TV6 and Fox UP. First of all, congratulations on the new contract.
Thank you, Dave. It feels good. I think I'm going in 10 years in the UP, so I might be an official UPer. I might ask you to gather up all the people up here and take a vote if I'm allowed to be a UPer now. But thank you.
We'll work on that for sure. Back in 18-19, you guys won 23. You kind of took a step back the year after. Then last season, obviously, some great success. What did you learn 2 years ago that can help you from taking that step back again this season?
That's a great question, and I think it's important. Part of that was schedule. We had #1 Denver in our building, lost a couple of close contests. We went down on the road to Michigan, to Notre Dame. And, like you said, I think for some of the people in our locker room, with that coming off a 23 win season, our players kind of thought we'd arrived. We're here, and we all know it doesn't work that way. It's easier to get here than to stay on top. So it's a great question. And I think there are some great lessons that, like I just said, you have to put last year in the past. It's over. This is a new group. It's a new culture. It's new leadership. And, this is about the 21-22 season. So you learn from it. You teach your group about it. You teach your leaders about it. And, I think Joey got a question from somebody about player-led team that Ron Mason liked. I think, Dave, you might ask that question. And I think it's very true. So a lot of these guys lived through that. They did not enjoy that experience. So, we'll turn to the team to help lead us through that as well and build on last year and not take a step back. Thank you, Dom, and thank you, everybody, today.
Yeah, thank you, Damon. Really appreciate your time today. Next up, we'll move along here, and again, apologize getting behind schedule. Appreciate the involvement from the media today. Next up, Bowling Green State's Ty Eigner. Ty, if you wouldn't mind an opening statement on your expectations coming into this upcoming season.
Yeah, thanks, Dom. First of all, I want to say thanks to everybody involved, administrators and staff, to getting the CCHA back up and running. I know I'm, the seventh guy to say that thing, but it's true. And the work that Don and yourself and Dean and Kevin have done up to this point has been really impressive. One of the things that we talked about throughout the process of restarting and rebranding the CCHA was making sure that we did things the right way as a conference. And there's no question that from day one, with the hiring of Don and yourself and Kevin and Dean now, everything's been done really, really well up to this point. And I echo the statements of the other coaches in saying that we all are really, really excited to be back in the CCHA and looking forward to a great, long future with the CCHA.
Coach, got to say, love the orange suit jacket that you're wearing today. We'll open it up.
Did Coach Saratori wear his green one today?
I don't remember.
He was supposed to. So
we'll open it up to media. And again, apologize to be repetitive, but people are jumping on and off. So if you are new to the call, please raise your hand with the function at the bottom of the window. Unmute yourself and state your name and affiliation. Quite a few coming in, Coach. Let's start things off with Anthony with the College Hockey News.
Morning, Coach. Anthony Travaglio with College Hockey News. When you look at some of the offensive firepower you lost with the group that left after last season, and you sit here and look at what's left on the roster, is Cole Norris one of those guys you're looking at to make up for some of that was lost?
Yeah, I was able to listen to Damon, and I think some of the things Damon said are true here. We had 4 100-point scorers leave our program last year, and that's something that doesn't come around very often. And like Damon mentioned, we take great pride in the development piece here at Bowling Green. And we had a 100-point scorer in Dan DeSalvo 5 years ago. We had a 100-point scorer in Alec Rauhauser, 2-time All-American, and then we had 400-point scorers last year. So we believe in our process and how we do things here, and we believe one of the big reasons that we pursued Cole when we saw he was in the portal was because we believe he's a kid that can help. Obviously the transfer portal is a new thing for college hockey, college athletics, and with the number of people we knew we were going to lose, having a senior class of 10 players, we knew that we needed to try to find some guys as kind of a stopgap, and we certainly believe Cole's one of those guys that can help us, in the short term, get out there, because he's been such a productive player over his career.
Hi, Kevin Langseth just sent in that Tom Saratori did wear the green jacket earlier, so
Good. So the pressure's on Mike Hastings to wear his purple one after me.
Well, this should be good. Next up, Amanda from the Toledo Blade.
Hi, Ty. Amanda Levine from the Toledo Blade. Just how much does the end of last season with the WCHA quarterfinals loss to Northern Michigan motivate you guys heading into this year?
Hi, Amanda. Yeah, it was, one of the things that we've taken great pride in around here over the past 11 years was, we'd gone 11 straight years with winning a first round playoff series. Even when we were from a record perspective, not very good in those early years. And, we won 20 games again last year for the 7th straight year. And last year was the first time we didn't win a first round playoff series. And that stung. And, we don't want to talk about last year a lot because this is we have so many new players and a bunch of turnover. So a lot of these guys weren't even around for last year, and it doesn't mean much to them. But I do know that the players that were a part of our program last year and played in that series against Northern Michigan know that's not a feeling that sits very well with anybody around here, and it's something that we certainly would choose not to experience again.
Thank you, Amanda. Drew Turhall.
Coach Drew Turhall with the Sentinel Tribune. With you, like you said, you lost about 10 seniors this year on the roster. Is there anyone in particular you're looking to step up to help fill those shoes that left the program last year?
Yeah, and we our losses were at all positions. We lost 5 forwards, and I think we would start with, or I believe we would start with Sam Craigs. We were fortunate enough to have Sam come back, and we believe Sam's in a position to have the best year he's had in his career. And so Sam's certainly a guy that we feel like is gonna help up front. And then internally, Alex Barber had a really good year last year, and Alex is back as a senior and feel like Alex is going to be a great player. And Taylor Schneider had a really good year last year, and we feel like Taylor's in a position to push for those minutes and make up for some of that loss. And then Evan Doherty finished strong, had his best year as a junior last year, and Evan played with Sam and Taylor last year at the end of the year, and it was a really good line for us. So those are some kids up front as older players that we feel are going to help. And then we've got some other guys with experience. We've got we're carrying 17 forwards this year, which is a lot. And we feel like one of the things we've been trying to stress since everybody got back here in August was, yes, we have losses, but we believe that returning players as well as new players. We added Cole, like you mentioned, or that was mentioned before, and we feel Cole can help us offensively. We added Nathan Burke from the University of Minnesota, and Nathan was a productive player for the University of Minnesota for 3 years. We feel like what we've seen early from Nathan is really positive. When we have some other players that maybe didn't get opportunities in their career that have had good summers and believe they're prepared to be in a position to take some of those opportunities. And then we've got some freshmen that have been really good so far. So we've got a lot of guys. We're not going to ask 1 or 2 or 3 people to all of a sudden make up for what we lost. We're going to try to do it by committee because that's how we've always done it here. We want to get more guys involved in our offense. We believe we've got some kids on the back end that are going to certainly help us offensively too. So we feel like it'll be that's something that'll kind of take care of itself, because we do, after being on the ice for a few weeks with the guys, we do feel like we're going to have options, but ultimately when given the opportunity, guys are going to have to take advantage of that. And when we start playing games, they start keeping track of the score and handing out goals and assists, guys are going to have to execute when they're given those opportunities. So we're excited because there are a lot of players that because we had so many guys that were so good for so long, there's opportunity for a lot of players, and a lot of players are excited about that.
Dave Danis.
Hey, Coach, Dave Danis, 100.3 The Point in Marquette. In taking a look, you lost a lot of players, but a good majority of those players were guys that were, prior to the goofiness of last year, were guys that you were planning on losing and had a plan to replace anyway with your recruits. And it seems that you kind of stuck with the original plan. So how did all of that play out for your team, and in how you were going to try and retain some of those players, or just try and go ahead with the original plan?
It was, it's a good question, Dave. You know, that was we went into last year with 10 seniors. So we knew we were going to lose 2 goalies and lose at least 2 defensemen and lose, 6 forwards. So it was a large group. And then the NCAA made the decision to allow players to have a COVID year. And so then we started to talk about it. And if we could go back and do it over again, maybe we would do some things differently in how you have the conversations or when you have the conversations. But at the end of the day, those players that left after 4 years did everything that Bowling Green asked them to do. They graduated. We had we've been the highest team GPA on our campus for men's sport for the last 2 years, and I think 3 of the last 4. And so our guys, they did a great job in the classroom, and they did a great job for us on the ice, and they were really, really good people in Bowling Green, and they were great representatives of our program. So it was a difficult time. I don't know what other guys have said up to this point, Dave, but it was hard. It was emotional because, there's really no way you could have all 10 seniors come back, just because that's just too many kids to carry. You don't have enough stalls in the locker room to have that many guys. And then financially, how does it all work out? Are you able to keep a kid on the same money as he was before, and all those kinds of things? And then some kids were ready to move on. We tried to have honest conversations with each player, and the players that we didn't feel like were going to have an opportunity to come back, we wanted to let them know as soon as possible so they could go pursue if they wanted a 5th year at another institution. So we've had guys go on and go to other places, and we wish them the best. And then, we were fortunate that Sam Craigs chose to stay, and we asked some other kids to stay, and they felt like it was in their best interest to maybe go someplace else and see what they could do with an opportunity elsewhere. So it was unique. It was emotional. Like I said, it was difficult, Dave, but it's something that now that you've done it, we believe things happen for a reason. And so we've, it took us the summer to get over it. Now then the new guys start coming back, and the freshmen start coming in, and you get excited again. Everybody's excited to play. And so we feel really good about where we're at. But you're right. We did plan on losing 10 guys anyway. So we felt like this was going to be a big group, whether it was COVID or no COVID.
Time for one more. A reminder that the Commissioner Don Lucia will be available at the end for questions again. Amanda, you want to finish us off with Ty?
Yeah, hi Ty. Just one follow-up question. Just with the 11 players that left this year, how do you kind of build off of what happened last year heading into this season, and what are the team's strengths?
Well, I would say one of the things we've talked about, the strength of this program every year, Amanda, is the people in the program, and we've talked about that for 12 years now. So we've taken great pride and been very intentional about building this program around the people in the program, not around goals or assists or where a guy played or this, that, or the other thing. We built it around people. And, it starts with, Curtis Carr's been here now in his 3rd year, and Nate Phillips, our hockey ops guy, in his 3rd year. This is my 12th. And then we added Stavros Pascaris as an assistant, and he's a great person, and he fits. So we feel great about that. And then the people we bring in, we've told everybody that, last year stung, and we were probably at the end of the day, 1 win away from, we had a good year. In a difficult time, we had a good year with COVID. We won 20 games again, but ultimately we probably needed to win 1 more game at some point to give ourselves the opportunity for that good year to be a really good year and make the NCAA tournament. And so we've won a bunch of games over the last 4 or 5 years, but we need to win something, and that's kind of the focus. And the players have been great up to this point. We've really leaned on those older guys that have had a guy like Sam Craigs that saw 9 of his classmates graduate, but now he's all into this. He's got a 2nd senior year, and he feels great, and he's all into this senior class. And so we've leaned on Sam to try to, how can we get better? Because that's our focus. Like every year, we try to replace the graduating players or the players who leave with better players. That's the goal. And we want to be better. This team wants to be better than last year's team. And that's the goal. So knowing that that's really difficult. So I would say the focus has been on the people. And then looking at last year, we just feel like we let an opportunity slip away. And I know the players up to this point have talked a lot about wanting to be as close of a group as we can and wanting to be as tight knit as we can. And thankfully, it's not something new. If we've been talking about people throughout all these players' recruiting process, this is not a new message for them. So it's important that we now kind of lean on that. We've had an opportunity to kind of sort of, without purposefully doing it, kind of reinvent ourselves. We've reinvented our staff because obviously this is my third year and we've got a new assistant and then we've got a bunch of new players. So we've kind of reinvented our locker room and done some things and taken the players' input and how do we take it from here to here? That's the goal. So it's been fun, and the players have been great up to this point as far as buying in and making everybody feel like all 28 guys matter.
Ty, thank you so much for your time. We have to move on.
All right, thank you.
Ty Agner of the Bowling Green State Falcons. Next up, the head coach for the Northern Michigan Wildcats, Grant Potolny. Grant, if you could, an opening statement on your expectations coming into the season this year.
Hi, thank you, Dom. I'd like to reiterate the comments of the previous coaches on the excitement, number one for the CCHA, the institutions involved, what the presidents and athletic directors did to make the commitment to hockey and not just on individual campuses, but all of them league wide, and obviously what's happening with the league office and knowing Don and working for Don and having a history with Don. He's always done things first class. He's always done things the right way. It's never been for the benefit of Don. It's been for the benefit of whether it was Fairbanks, whether it was Colorado College or Minnesota, and now the CCHA, and the rest of the staff has done an incredible job. So moving on to our team, in 4 years, the previous 4 years that I've had a chance to be the coach, we just haven't had seniors. And we've been, every year you try to get older and you feel like you're going to get older and you think you can get older and something happens. And, this year we have 10 seniors and 5 super seniors. So we have some veteran leadership in our room. And, one thing that we talk to the team about every year is at some point, guys, we want to give the room over to you. And, the goal of that each year is usually around Christmas. You start handing the reins over to the players, but with the veteran leadership we have and the amount of guys that have been around the block and different experiences at different schools. We have 4 transfer students that have completely different experiences last year from the players that were here. So every scenario that's kind of come up along the way, hopefully somebody's seen that. And that's going to be a big part of where we're going. And then the depth of our program is as good as it's ever been. We do have some top end players. Andre Gantos led the league in scoring. Joe Nardi was 3rd in the league in scoring. We have some guys at the top that, and there's other guys there that Vanderbeck and Kallela and some guys that have played here last year. But we have some depth, and we've been lacking that in the past few years. And I think it's an interesting stat. We've had the league's leading scorer 3 years in a row, 3 different players. But it always felt like whatever line that guy was on, we were relying upon. And this year, I do think that we have some depth scoring. Rico DiMatteo coming in at Christmas changed the trajectory of our season, and hopefully he's going to push our program back to the right direction. So we're strong at each position, and we're excited about what the possibility of this team can be.
Okay, with that being said, we'll open it up to media. Again, please utilize the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. Remember to unmute yourself, and please state your name and affiliation. Start things off, Ryan.
Hey, Grant, Tyrell was injured against Michigan Tech kind of to close out the regular season. How's he doing right now? And is that kind of like a rallying point for the team going into the exhibition game?
Yeah, Tyrell is a player that we added at Christmas last year. We added him ironically due to injuries on our back end. And Tyrell came in and over the course of a month turned into one of our top kind of defensive defensemen. And when he broke his leg, it really affected our program. And having him back and having Tanner Vesio back, who Tanner hasn't played in a year and a half. He broke his jaw towards the end of the year, his freshman year. And last year, blew his ankle out like the third or fourth game of the year. So those are, a top pair defenseman in Vesio, and Bush was a top 4 defenseman. So having those guys back really makes a difference. And Tyrell's coming along very well. We've been cautious with him. I always probably am over cautious with guys in the preseason because, guys want to go and they're anxious and they're excited to get going, but you have to remind them we need them in October and November, and we got to make sure that we're resting so we can be ready for that.
Dave Danis.
Hey, Coach, long time no see. Last year, it seemed that whenever the Wildcats would get healthy from a touch of COVID, by the time that your team would get healthy, then the team coming up, Huntsville was a good example. You'd have problems getting the game scheduled on the other end. What kind of challenges did that present, and how pleased were you with what the team showed at the end of the year and then the nice little run that you made in the playoffs?
Yeah. Hi, Dave. I don't want to play the poor us card because I think we were fortunate that we were able to compete and we were able to play. There was lots of teams that weren't across college hockey, and within our league there were many challenges people had. And as the year went, I think as a league, as a team, as an individual, you learn to kind of roll with it a little bit. But again, like when we got Rico in, it kind of changed, where we were going. And I felt like down the stretch, we were a pretty darn good team. And, we could go into any rink or play anybody and we had a chance to win. The thing that's interesting is there's been 3 championship games in our league. I shouldn't say our league in over the time that I've been the coach at Northern. 1 year we didn't have one because of COVID. We've played in that game twice and we've lost both times. And, the one constant besides Coach Poole and I is Joe Nardi. And, standing there with Joe, giving Joe a hug in Mankato after, losing the championship game, I thought it might be the last time that I'd have him. And, I told him I loved him and he was a great Wildcat. And, I just felt sick because he's given everything that he could possibly give. He's turned himself into a very good player. To have him have another shot at being able to win a championship, I think is something that has kind of bled through our team a little bit. And not just Joe, because the guys that were here last year, they still have that scar from that game too. So I do think that there's an understanding of what it takes to win. There's an understanding that it's challenging and difficult to win, and there's things you have to do to give yourself a chance to win. And hopefully we can understand that earlier this year than we did last year.
Jess Myers.
Brent, on that topic of the older guys, this is obviously a different year with COVID and the rules changes and all of that, but what kind of impact do you see those 5th-year super seniors having, not only on your team, but just on college hockey in general, that extra year of experience that a lot of guys are bringing?
Well, Jess, I think there's 2 ways that you can look at that. I think the players that stayed in your program will have an immediate impact from the beginning of the year. Nobody knows your team better than like for us, Joe Nardi is an extension of our coaching staff. This is his 5th year here. He's been a captain, 3 years in a row. He's been a top 6 center for 5 years. So he's played in very important situations, pressure pack situations. This is year 4 for Ben Newhouse. So guys internally should have an impact right away. The guys that you have brought in, externally, you hope that, they can find some traction right away, because obviously you felt like they were players that could come in and make a difference in your program, even though it was only 1 year. So I think the teams that are going to have success with players that they've acquired from the transfer portal are the teams that can acclimate those players the best. And then not just the staff, but the team. Do those guys feel part of the team? Do those guys feel like they're not outsiders? Do those guys feel like they can speak up? Because again, they have, these guys have great life experiences. So I think that's going to be a real important factor in super senior transfers having an impact. How quick can you get them acclimated in your team?
Time for one more. Dave Ellis.
Hey, Coach, Dave Ellis from TV6 and Fox UP. You've been talking about these players from other programs and their influence off the ice. When they do come in, are they just plugging holes into your system, or are you adapting what they do best to maximize their impact when they play?
Yeah, hi, Dave. Well, I think for us, there was a strategic plan on the type of player we wanted to go after. We were looking for a center, and we had a front row seat for 4 years with Hampus Eriksson, and knowing what he can do intimately. He was somebody that we felt could really help us down the middle. We needed a top six left winger, maybe somebody that we felt could run the flank on the power play. Hank Crone was a player that I've known since Hank's been 15, just evaluating him, watching him his career path. So I do think that the guys up front, they were more strategic. This is what we need. This is what we're looking for. And those guys fit the bill. And then on the back end, if you look at our D-corps, we have 2 players in our D-corps that really have college hockey experience, and Mike Van Unen and Ben Newhouse. Tim Merkel is a sophomore, Boucher is a sophomore, Vesio is a junior, but has only played really half a year of hockey. So Colby Enns is a sophomore. So we just didn't have experience. So adding Bo Hansen and Trevor Cosgrove, guys with over 100 games of college hockey, was really important for us to give us some experience back there. So, I don't know how other teams had attacked that, the needs that they were acquiring, but I know for us that we had ideas what we wanted to go and try get, and the guys that we got are exactly what we were looking for.
Grant, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Tom.
Grant Patolny of the Northern Michigan Wildcats. 2 more head coaches remaining: Mike Hastings of the Minnesota State Mavericks, Rico Plazzi of the St. Thomas Tommies, and then the commissioner, Don Lucia, if there are any additional questions for him to wrap things up afterwards. We'll start things off with Mike Hastings, the head coach at Minnesota State. Mike, an opening statement on your expectations for the upcoming season, please.
Hi, fellas. Thanks for having me, Don. Look forward to what this season brings for us. Really excited about it. When you talk about what we're looking for, it always starts with leadership. And I just want to echo again, I'm not going to beat it up too much, but the leadership that we have at the league office with Don Lucia, Dom, Kevin, Dean, with the support of our presidents and administration, has allowed us to get to this point. And as you're hearing it being echoed for every coach that comes in, we're all excited about what's in front of us. And for us right now, what we're excited about is moving on to the next stage, turning the page. And for us, we're going to utilize some experience of our own with people that have gone through positive, negative, multiple moments throughout our journey here as a program, as we continue to try and climb the ladder. And any successful team starts with goaltending. And so we'll be leaning on Dryden McKay, who has set an awful lot of records inside our program, and very much deserved recognition for him nationally because of what he's accomplished so far in his career, and look forward to him to continue that journey, along with leaning upon some veteran defensemen that are coming back in Jack McNeely, Jake Livingstone, Akito Hiroshi, Andy Carroll, our captain, Wyatt Mott. Those guys need to come back and establish us getting out of our end as quick as possible and executing what we want to execute on a day in, day out basis. And then relying upon some guys that I thought really separated themselves at the most important time of the year for not only ourselves, but our program, at finally getting to a Frozen Four. And, that's Nathan Smith, Reggie Lutz, Julian Napravnik, Brendan Furry, Ryan Sandelin, those guys I thought played their best hockey at the most important time of the year. And so we're looking forward to then coming back and establishing a presence for us, not only on the ice, but in the locker room for our new guys. We've got 4 new transfers. We've, to give you a number, we lost 11 and we brought 10 in. So we do have a pretty good turnover from what we had a year ago to where we're at this year. And we're going to need that leadership as well as the influx of new talent and character to carry us early because of the schedule that we're going to have. We play a very aggressive non-conference schedule, starting out at UMass here the first weekend of the year, coming back and playing St. Cloud, who ended our season, and then the following weekend going up to Duluth and playing in the Icebreaker. And so we've got a lot on our plate. We're excited about getting started, excited about what's going on with the CCHA. We've shown ourselves very well up until this point, and now we as a group of programs, universities, have to do the next step and carry the water from here on out.
Thank you, Mike. We'll open it up to media. Again, if you have a question for Head Coach Mike Hastings, please utilize the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. And once it's your turn, you will be allowed to unmute yourself. And please state your name and your affiliation before asking your question. Start things off. Amanda.
Hi, Mike. Amanda Levine from the Toledo Blade. You already mentioned Brendan, but what are your expectations for him this year?
Well, we need to have Brendan take the next step. If you watched our last 4 or 5 games of our previous season, Brendan stepped up in many different ways, not only in his value as a top 6 forward, top 2 centerman, but in all special teams. He was killing penalties for us. He was on our power play. Previously he's gone through some down times, just injury wise. When he came out of junior hockey, he had to have surgery. It was a second surgery. And so it's taken him a little bit of time, but with his off ice training this summer and with the maturity of being able to be surrounded by some pretty good people and hockey players in his first 2 years here, we're expecting a lot of really big things from him, really in all aspects, in the locker room and on the ice.
Kevin?
Mike, yesterday you got a lot of preseason awards. Your team did. I know that doesn't necessarily translate to wins and losses on the ice, but nice to see get your program get that recognition, especially for some of the players that got it.
Yeah, it was good to see those young men be recognized. Nathan Smith, I can go through just a couple of them. Nathan Smith has had a tremendous summer in the weight room, and to see his maturity both on and off the rink. We're gonna try and capitalize on that early this year. His standing in the locker room and the responsibilities that he's going to take on as our number 1 center over this year is somebody that is going to have a tremendous amount of responsibility from our coaching staff and the people that are surrounding him. Akito Hiroshi, again, good summer. Continues to get better every single year. Is a guy that plays in all situations for us. His puck poise and really just his demeanor around the rink endears him to both coaches and his teammates. And so he'll have a lot on his plate early as we try to progress, like I said, with our early season schedule. Dryden McKay, we've already talked about him. He's somebody that's going to have to continue what he's doing and take another step. Nobody challenges Dryden more than Dryden does. And then the returning player of the year, our offensive player of the year, Julian Napravnik. All those guys are a core for us, and we're hoping that they can pick up where they left off last season.
Jess Myers.
Hi, Mike. Jess Myers from the Rink Live. At some point, I expect you'll hang a banner that says Frozen Four 2021. How do you balance, or how much do you balance putting last year behind you, forgetting about it, moving on, with this group? And how much do you, want them to build off the thought that, hey, we had a 3rd period lead in a Frozen Four game and we were that close and, we just need to take another step, that kind of thing. How do you balance those?
Well, just like I think you balance anything in life, you try to enjoy the highs when you have them and learn from the lows. And it was great going through the regional and winning the regional out in Loveland, even in the manner that we did. We didn't have a great start against Quinnipiac, but found a way to win that game. Played very well against Minnesota to win the regional, and peaks and valleys in the game against St. Cloud that we've got to continue to learn from. But that hurt. When we didn't have an opportunity to compete for a national championship, you learn from the things that hurt a little bit more than you probably do from the things that feel good. And so our balance is this: we're turning the page, but you can't buy experience. So we want to rely upon the experience that these young men have had in their time that they've been with our program, have them pass that on to the guys that are new to our program, and look forward. Don't look backward. And our group's done a very good job of that so far. We need to keep crushing our days as they're getting limited here prior to getting us out to UMass. So we'll stay balanced looking forward with understanding what has happened in the past and try and benefit from those experiences.
Daniel?
Hey, Coach. Daniel McElroy. I'm your reporter. Just touching back on Dryden McKay, one goaltender of the year, a bunch of accolades. How much does he focus on those accolades, specifically like the Ryan Miller shutout record, or is he only focused on a championship at this point?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. I haven't talked to Dryden about that in the time that he's been here. About Ryan Miller's numbers or the, whether it's wins, whether it's shutouts, those types of things. And it's not that I don't talk to Dryden McKay. I talk to him every day. So I think his focus has always been on he's an incredibly humble young man. When you have somebody with the qualities that Dryden has away from the game, it endears him to his teammates inside that locker room. And he might look like he's got a very quiet demeanor, which he does, but I know that fire inside his belly burns at a very high rate. And so, he believes there's still a lot of people out there that question him as a goaltender. And he's trying to answer those questions every day in how he approaches his work. And so it's an opportunity for Dryden this year to write some of his own history. And he's been doing that day in and day out since he set foot on this campus, and we expect nothing different going forward.
Dave?
Hi, Mike. Dave Danis, 100.3 The Point in Marquette. I take a look at the most recent conference there, and I think you and Bob are the guys that have had consistent staffs all the way through, and a change for you this year. One, what kind of effect does that have on the room and the process that you have? And two, what kind of positives will a new voice bring to that process?
I appreciate you having the perspective that you have, Dave. For us, I've been spoiled from day one since I've been here. I've had the same staff as far as the two assistant coaches in Todd Connaught as my associate head coach, who I think is one of the brightest minds in college hockey, and Darren Blue, who had been here for 21 years. And when you lose that, there's change, and there's a little bit of regret on that ends. But we've chosen to look at it as what a pleasure we've had to be able to have the consistency that we've had on our staff. And I do believe sometimes, and including the commissioner that is leading our league, I was, fortunate enough to work with him on his staff. And he has said before, and I agree with it, that sometimes change is good. And so it allows us to reset a little bit as a staff, look at ourselves in a different manner. And then there's new energy, new life in the locker room, and his communication and what he brings to the table. And Paul Kirtland, who had been at Yale University and has been around junior hockey at multiple levels, whether that's North American League, the USHL, Division III hockey, Sacred Heart, and then being at Yale, we think he can bring a lot to the table to not only challenge our players, but to challenge myself and Todd Connaught for us to be better. So we're looking forward to what's in front of us, just like the players. We can't look backward. we're going to miss Darren. He's still in town. Still going to have lifelong relationships with him and his family, and look forward to him moving on in his next journey as somebody in our community, a very important person. But he's always going to be a part of Maverick hockey, and we're welcoming Paul Kirtland and his wife Colleen to our family here in Mankato.
Jess?
Mike, it's Jess Myers from the Rink Live again. Talking about your schedule, especially the non-conference portion of it. You know, there's a joke that some coaches need to win Atlantic hockey in October before they'll play a conference game, but you're kind of going a different route. I'm just wondering who put that non-conference schedule together, and what are you hoping to know about your team come about Halloween?
Well, I'll take a little piece in that, as well as Darren Blue, who did a lot of our non-conference scheduling. So I can't completely throw him under the bus because I was driving right with him. 4 months ago, this seemed like a really good idea. And as it gets closer, you know what, you wonder a little bit, but it's a challenge. Year in and year out, we as a program have tried to schedule non-conference games in a real aggressive manner. And that's for hopefully having our players being prepared at the end of the year, and us making sure our book of business come the time that the NCAA has decided on who gets to move on, that our book of business is good enough for us to be able to play at the dance. It's worked for us before, but again, when you schedule those games, you've got to win some of them. And so our focus right now going out to UMass is trying to get off to a good start. We know they'll be hanging a banner as an NCAA champion there, coming back and playing against a very good St. Cloud State team who's picked to win the NCHC in our own building, and then going up to Duluth. And I don't have to tell you about what Duluth has done over the years with us playing Providence. And then on the other side, we're either playing Duluth or Michigan. So we're excited about it because it's an opportunity to look in the mirror, and we want to judge ourselves against the best competition that we can. And that's going to happen within the CCHA this year. When you look at Michigan Tech, you look at Bemidji, Tech was within a game of getting there, and BSU did what they did to Wisconsin. Both of them have 22 players returning. I just listened to Ty, I listened to Grant, and there's no outs in the CCHA regular season schedule. So that combined with our non-conference is a challenge that we're looking forward to getting started here sooner than later.
Okay, again, apologize. We do have to move on. We're well over schedule. Mike, thanks so much for your time.
Dom, thanks. One thing I want to say, I have to apologize to Tom. I have to apologize to Ty. I did go to my guy here in town that I get my suits from. Couldn't find one on the rack that was purple. Decided to go with a little bit of a purple shirt. So I apologize to those two guys, and you guys crush the rest of this day. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. And if you're just joining us, there was an agreement between the three coaches where Tom was going to wear his green blazer. Ty obviously wore his orange one, and that Mike was supposed to wrap up with purple, but he could not find one. Let's go to St. Thomas now in St. Paul, Minnesota. Rico Blasi, the head coach of the St. Thomas Tommies. Rico, please turn your video on and unmute yourself. And if you could, please start with an opening statement about your expectations, especially your number one at the Division I level. Thanks for joining us, Rico.
Thank you, Amy, Dom, and thank you to everybody in the CCHA and Commissioner Lucia for all the hard work and preparation for this upcoming season, and the conference teams and presidents and ADs. I think everybody's pretty much said it over the last hour or so. I'm a little upset that I wasn't involved in the purple blazer, but I think I do have a purple shirt on, so that's good. Listen, we're excited. This is unprecedented move from Division III to Division I. I think I'm probably most thrilled for everybody here at St. Thomas, starting with our president, Dr. Sullivan, and our board, and our director of athletics, Dr. Eston, and his staff, and all of our alumni that have worked so hard to get us to this point. And it's going to be a lot of firsts for this program. And at the Division I level, we have such a rich tradition in Division III of success, and so we're looking forward to building on that at the Division I level. For us, our expectations are to continue to build our culture and our identity every day. Everything that we do is going to be filtered towards that. Basically, making sure that we're, when you're building the culture and the identity, you got to work hard. You got to be a good person, and you got to make good decisions and good choices. And that's what we're going to try to do. Our league is full of some great teams and great players, and we're looking forward to competing and learning what we need to do to compete at that level here down the road.
Thank you, Rico. We'll open it up to the media. Again, if you do have a question for Rico, please utilize the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. Remember to unmute yourself and state your name and your affiliation. Let's go to Jack with the USCHO.
Hey Rico, this is Jack Kinninger from USCHO. Good to talk to you. Just sort of looking at your roster, I noticed you've got a lot of transfers coming in just to sort of help build maybe get some up to Division I caliber, maybe teach some of the guys that maybe have been on the roster before how to play at this level. Maybe just to ask you how that transition goes to building a roster for Division I. How many guys do you keep around from the old days? Obviously, that's a special challenge for you. It's probably more complicated than you want to get into in this short press conference, but maybe just generally, how did that, what was the most important aspect of building the roster for this inaugural season?
Well, thanks, Jack. Great question. Obviously being hired in April was a little bit difficult to try to put together a roster, but the transfer portal did help. There were some available players that we thought could help us transition and help in the locker room and building the culture. So we were able to do that. I thought it was important to also keep some of our Division III players in transition. They know St. Thomas really well, and they know the tradition here. And so we felt that was really important. We were able to keep 12 of those guys that played on last year's team. And so those two things were important. And then obviously it was important to get some freshmen, first year guys that we will be able to keep with us for the next 4 years and help us build our team to what we think we can be here in the next 4 to 5 years. So those three components are really important. I was kind of thinking today, as you're asking that question, I don't know if everybody remembers the movie Major League, but there's a scene where it's a couple of guys in the maintenance or the ballpark maintenance say, who are these guys? That's basically what people are going to be thinking. Who are these guys at St. Thomas? But I can tell you, we have guys that have a lot of pride, guys that are really good people. They're going to work hard. We're going to compete every night. We're going to get better every day, and hopefully we can make our university proud and our league proud.
Dave?
Hi, Rico. Dave Danis, 100.3 The Point in Marquette. Look forward to seeing you for the opener in a couple of weeks. When you come into this job, you start out with a D3 rink and D3 facilities, and you have to build that up. The state of Minnesota has got some great stuff in Mankato and Minneapolis and Duluth and Bemidji and St. Cloud. How do you sell that to your recruits on what they're going to see over the next 4 to 6 years? And how do you sell that? How do you push that to your fans?
Yes, thanks, Dave. That's a great question as well. And for us as a coaching staff is basically starting the culture from scratch and making sure that we do what we say we're going to do in terms of how we develop our players and the relationships that we're going to have and the people that we're going to bring in and how we teach our systems and the things that we're going to do from day to day. Those are really important building blocks to what's going to come here in the next 4 to 5 years. Obviously, there's some things that need to happen in terms of facilities and things like that. And those are all in the works and are part of the plan. But to be able to recruit to who you are and who we are as a university, what we believe in and as an institution, bringing those players that believe in those things and how we're trying to run our program and how we're going to play and how we're going to act off the ice. And all those things are part of building and selling what we are here at St. Thomas.
Ryan?
Hi, Rico. I asked Joel Johnson this when he was on the WCHA Media Day, the transition to D1, kind of putting together a roster. What has this experience been like for you personally during the last few months?
Well, it's been a lot of fun, actually. I haven't really felt much stress about it other than trying to put all the things together. And there's, because of COVID, there are things that are kind of on back order and things like that. So that's probably stressed me out more than anything. But the player side of it has been really kind of rewarding, to be honest with you. And I'll start with the Division III guys. When I got the job in April, because the Division III season was so short, there were still a lot of days that we could practice. And so we were able to practice for 2 weeks with the Division III guys and run sort of a tryout camp. And when we had the meeting to tell the 12 that they were transitioning to Division I, honestly, it was probably one of the most rewarding days that I've had as a coach, just to see the look on those guys' face and see the excitement and the opportunity that they have ahead of themselves was really something special. And then to have the conversations with some of these guys that we got off the transfer portal and why they wanted to come to St. Thomas, and really it was all for the right reasons. It wasn't about anything to do with them as an individual, but more as what are we going to do as a team and as a program. And so that was rewarding in itself as well. And then obviously when you recruit young first year guys, they're excited, they want to be part of it. And so it's been a tremendous experience for me. We keep saying around here that it's part of the book. It'll be part of the book as we go through this process.
With us being over time, let's just go with one more. Matt, why don't you wrap up the media day?
Hi, Coach. Matt Pocket and Bill Crawford here on Yes FM and Sault Ste. Marie. What's the future of facilities looking like for your program?
That's a good question, Matt. We're in the process. There's a lot of things going on here in St. Paul, and I can tell you that the university is working extremely hard. The relationship we have with the city of St. Paul and our alumni, things are moving the way I expected them to move when we first took over. And there'll be things that will be happening here in the next few months that we'll be able to talk a little bit more about. How's that sound?
I think that's a good way to wrap it up here today. Rico, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate everybody's time and look forward to a great CCHA season.
Okay, with that being said, then we will complete our media day. It's our first one as part of the new era. If you joined us later into the session today, we will have this video in its entirety on demand later today at cchatv.com. Again, we want to thank the university presidents and athletic directors for their investment into their programs this offseason. We want to thank our coaches for their time today, you for your support as media members, and of course, our SIDs and communications staff. We look forward to puck drop on October 2nd. Be safe, everybody.